The first year of the Nintendo Switch 2 era has come to a close, or at the very least its first 6 months. Yeah, the June launch is a weird one. Obviously, Nintendo's entire 2025 revolved around the Switch 2, from its January announcement to its holiday season, but dropping the system in the summer makes it a little hard to get the full picture of its release year as opposed to its predecessor's March release. I mean, 2017 was a beast in a lot of ways, but one such reason was that it felt wonderfully complete. Directly off the heels of Wii U years that opened with what and ended with no, the Switch kicked things off with Breath of the Wild and closed out with Super Mario Odyssey. Even with 2 months shaved off, things felt conclusive, like a hype-fueled journey had reached its inevitable stopping point, only to be revved up again a few months later. The Switch 2 unfortunately didn't get the luxury of dominating the vast majority of a calendar year and had to make do with half, but all the more reason to look forward to 2026. With a full 12 months of Switch 2 goodness ahead of us, not only do we get to see how Nintendo closes out their new system's first year on the market, but we also get to see what surprises they have in store for the future. All that's left to do is call it. You know the drill. We're taking a look at all 4 acts of Nintendo's 2026 to figure out what games, announcements, and other secrets exist within, all with the perfectly honed accuracy that I've built over these last 7 years. Just don't fact check me on that. Let's get things rolling. Act 1. The Direct Drought's Demise. Nintendo's 2026 will kick off pretty regularly, as in, not much of note is going down until we get to February. Animal Crossing New Horizons will get a Switch 2 edition and attached 3.0 update, which won't stray very far from the features shown to us directly in its presentation. Naturally, I'll have things to talk about. More interestingly, about a month or so later, we'll get our first Nintendo Direct of the year, ending the September to February waiting game that tends to be the most agonizing of the presentation gaps, unless you count the Mario movie, I guess.
I appreciate that, Chris-san.
Disappointingly to some, this Direct won't have a crazy slew of first-party announcements to unveil. While it will have a few surprises up its sleeve, its primary purpose will be to detail and expand upon existing titles, which will be made abundantly clear when the presentation opens with Splatoon Raiders. It's essentially everything we're expecting it to be, a large-scale single-player Splatoon adventure, with most of its influence coming from the past game's story modes and expansions. After getting shipwrecked on the Spiralite Islands with Deep Cut, the mechanic is tasked with collecting enough parts to fix their helicopter and get them home, Pikmin style. The main gameplay gimmick comes in the form of fabrication, with the player being able to use the various scraps they collect to build machines that help them along their journey, either aiding in puzzles, combat, or transportation. You can also build up your home base through scavenging and collect long-forgotten relics for a profit, which Deep Cut doesn't seem to mind. Splatoon Raiders will release in June. Next up, Tomodachi Life, the Switch 1's biggest game of the year, bar none. Sorry, Rhythm Heaven. This time around, it's getting a major showcase with 2 primary focuses throughout. The first is island customization. Oof, just felt a chill. The player will be able to dictate the location of just about everything, from stores to houses, the latter of which can play a small part in encouraging certain Miis to interact. The second focus is on the game's titular concept, dreaming. While existent in the series past, the importance of dreams will be majorly expanded upon this time around. Both daydreams and regular dreams have the chance to impact Mii's relationships, sparking interest, strengthening connections, and maybe even allowing the dreamer to see that acquaintance in a newly romantic light. Mii's can even have shared dreams by falling asleep at the same time, where the impact is intensified further by interacting with the real deal. Just pray it's not a nightmare if you're cheering for a certain couple. Tomodachi Life Living the Dream will drop in May. Now, DLC time. And we're not beating around the bush anymore with unforeseen surprises. It's the big one. Mario Kart World is getting a huge expansion, albeit a segmented one. Welcome to the Island Pass, a series of 8 new islands circling Mario Kart World's primary landmass, each coming with a cup of 4 new thematically cohesive courses and a new knockout tour that connects them to the mainland. Packs can be purchased independently or bundled together through the pass. This Direct will introduce the first of the bunch, the Jungle Pack. Yup, it's Donkey Kong. For our Barrel Cup tracks, we've got DK Mountain, an Alival-styled, overgrown and abandoned coconut mall, DK's Jungle Parkway, and, as will be customary for the Island Pass, one brand new course, Kremling Coastline. On that note, each pack will also bring 2 newer returning characters to Mario Kart World. This time around, Void Kong and King K. Rool. If he can show up on the app, he can show up on the track. However, we're still not done here. As an act of goodwill towards players, the Jungle Pack will be accompanied with a free update that brings 2 other racers into the game, Diddy Kong and Dixie Kong. Is this asking for too much? No. Is this expecting too much? Maybe. The Mario Kart World Island Pass DLC Jungle Pack for the Mario Kart World game on Nintendo Switch 2 will release in March. I don't know why they say it like that. Next up, release dates. We need them. Most games on Nintendo's 2026 forecast are undated, and we'll get a lot of those sorted out here. Not everything's getting a major showing, but they'll pull up to remind us they exist. Super Mario Bros. Wonder Switch 2 Edition will reveal a big surprise that we probably shouldn't already know about: Rosalina. Man, if I had a nickel. The updated game will drop in March, just in time for movie cross-promotion. Yoshi and the Mysterious Book will drop in April, also just in time for movie cross-promotion. I'm sensing a trend here. And Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave, likely receiving a far more significant segment, but one I'd probably get clowned on for predicting as an outsider to the franchise. Regardless, it's getting a release window: summer. Same with Rhythm Heaven Groove, much to its fans' dismay. Hey, it could always be worse. I'm not going to be highlighting free Switch 2 performance upgrades throughout the video, but I'll call this one out because I think it's particularly notable. Monolith Soft might be taking a little longer to prepare the next ambitious adventure for the new hardware, but in the meantime, in classic Monolith Soft fashion, they're making sure fans don't go unfed. The entire Xenoblade saga on Switch, from the new entries to the remasters to the expansions, will get knocked up to 1440p 60 FPS on Switch 2. They'll be shadow dropped shortly after the Direct. Alright, time for our one more thing. Not very unexpected, but a big deal nonetheless. After noticing that many have gone missing on a trip to the Royal Railway, a cross-kingdom locomotive expedition, Luigi sets off to discover what's really going down on those tracks. And, expectedly, it's full of ghosts. This time around, Luigi finds himself turned into an unwitting passenger in King Boo's enormous haunted train, with a mysterious final destination that remains unknown to all who board. Similarly to Luigi's Mansion 3's hotel floors, each train car has a completely unique theme, and Luigi will have to brave each one as he travels from the humorously named Egad's Caboose to the Royal Engine Room. Don't be too worried about linearity though. The Magic Train's order of exploration is a lot looser than you would think, and it'll occasionally make stops at some larger, more ambitious areas that fall into the King's plan. Plenty more surprises await in the future, but Luigi's Mansion 4 will arrive in fall 2026. And that's it for our first Nintendo Direct of the year. But February isn't done with us yet. First, we got Mario Tennis Fever dropping a couple weeks in, don't think I forgot about that, and I think it'll actually be received pretty well. But the end of the month will bring its own bombshell, a Pokémon Presents. You guys know I don't go here, the predictions are going to be very light. We'll probably see some more Pokopia since that game's coming in March, maybe a few mobile games if you're lucky, I know people love those. Obviously, the important reveal will be Gen 10. It's definitely the leak thing, right? Do I get smited if I talk about that? I don't know. There it is, November 2026 as expected. I'm assuming we'll also get a second trailer for the Mario movie at some point in February, in which Yoshi will be revealed in full. Please don't have a celebrity voice, I don't think I could handle it. Despite not having a major first-party release, March will still be a pretty big month for Nintendo. Mario Wonder will re-emerge onto the scene with Rosalina and some new levels, Pokopia will garner a pretty sizable fanbase by virtue of just being Pokemon, and Mario Kart World's Jungle Pack will reignite discussion around the game with its new courses and characters. Sort of a breather, but lots of interest nonetheless. That's curtains for Act 1, a bolt of energy for the rest of 2026 without doing too much itself in terms of releases. Thankfully, things are about to get a lot more interesting. Act 2, The Plumber's Second Wind. April will open with the release of the Super Mario Galaxy movie. As anticipated, at least by me, it'll receive middling reviews, dominate the box office, and fans will spend the first few weeks shouting about how critics just don't understand the material. How can we trust them? They don't know Midbus! Beyond the reception, the movie itself will end with a post-credits tease that explains Donkey Kong's absence in the film, gearing up for his own cinematic venture in a couple years' time. Yoshi and the Mysterious Book will drop shortly after, giving parents the opportunity to satiate their children's newfound obsession with the dinosaur that the movie cleverly built. Maybe I'm overly optimistic, but I see the game landing closer to Woolly than Crafted on the Yoshi scale of quality. Lock in, good feel. May is the month where Tomodachi Life happens. Anything else that occurs in those 31 days is irrelevant. It's time. This date isn't pessimistic, by the way. I'd love a March or April release as much as anyone, but they could hold out till late June if they wanted to. Spring becomes pretty malleable when it comes to video games. Let's pray that isn't the case. I'm going big, by the way. 10 million units. The hype is there. This month we'll also see 2 release dates confirmed through independent Twitter drops. Both Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave and Rhythm Heaven Groove will launch in July. But no time to dwell on that. We've made it to June, famously a crucial month for Nintendo announcements, and this year will be no different. After the release of Splatoon Raiders, we'll receive the second Nintendo Direct of the year, and this one has a lot more to show off in terms of unknown quantities. We open with a big one. With the Super Mario Galaxy movie's success, sub-series and Switch 2 editions will be effective, but a Mario platformer is what will truly tap into the surrounding hype. We've been waiting, it's been missing in action, but it's finally here. Super Mario Maker 3. Maybe not the game everyone was hoping to see, but a significant release regardless. This game's doing something a little weird. You've probably seen some clamoring for a 3D Mario Maker over the years. With a whole new dimension to play with, the potential for fan creations would be limitless, if significantly less intuitive. Well, Nintendo heard those wishes and decided to fulfill them. In the strangest way possible. Remember extra game styles, the greatest deceit of our time behind variable pricing? Well, they're about to get a lot more extra. For regular styles, Super Mario Bros. Wonder has been added to the mix, allowing players to tap into that game's very unique brand of weirdness. For extra styles, a whopping 4 new themes have been included. Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, Super Mario Galaxy, and Super Mario Odyssey. The result? A bizarre 2D 3D amalgamation of Mario's platformer history, all adapted to function in the framework of Mario Maker. Yeah, we're 2D flooding it out here, Mario 63 style. With 10 themes to utilize and Switch 2 mouse movement tapping into that OG ease of control, the game will act as a major step forward for the series, truly befitting the title of Anniversary Game. Just about a year later, Super Mario Maker 3 will release in September. Speaking of anniversaries though, 2026 is the 40-year anniversary of The Legend of Zelda. Fan expectations are through the roof, Ocarina of Time remake, remaster galore, maybe even a tease of that highly anticipated next-gen 3D game? Twilight Princess HD. That's it. Okay, maybe Aonuma will pull up and say, "Hey, thanks for 40 years, you know we're always working hard, check out these new Joy-Con!" Twilight Princess HD. Moving on, Mario Kart World will show off the second release of its Island Pass DLC. This time around, the Tropical Pack. At this time, something will become apparent. Nintendo will be using the Island Pass as a form of promotion for Mario Universe games and visual media that have released around its rollout. Sorta like Smash DLC, unless you're Banjo. For this one, it's all about Yoshi. Or sort of half about Yoshi. The Egg Cup will be returning, and its tracks are Yoshi Falls, Chief Sheep Lagoon, Daisy Cruiser, and the brand new Eggshell Archipelago. I will remind you that this is a prediction and not a wish list. As for characters, Poochie and Kamek. I don't care that he's already an item, bring him back please. The Tropical Pack will be set to drop in August. After a bizarre but appreciated update 2.5 years past launch, Pikmin 4 will indeed be getting a Nintendo Switch 2 edition, the second one of the year. The primary editions will be hardware-based, as expected, better frame rate, resolution, mouse controls, etc., but the game will come with one big new feature, the Century Cave, an enormous ancient dungeon-like cavern with 100 sub-levels, featuring enemies, bosses, puzzles, and Dandori challenges scattered throughout. What lies at the bottom is anyone's guess, but it'll be a journey to get there. Yes, it's basically the Pit of 100 Trials, but adding Pikmin to things just makes them better, right? Pikmin 4 Nintendo Switch 2 edition plus the Century Cave will release in September. Next up, Nintendo's 2 pre-announced heavy hitters. Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave will get a new trailer, but a game-specific direct will also be revealed, dropping a few weeks after the general. Luigi's Mansion 4, however, will get a significant amount of time dedicated to it, specifically regarding its new gimmick. When Luigi boards the Royal Railway Express, he discovers that King Boo has gone for a very different plan this time around, and not just in terms of location. Instead of using paintings to seal his victims, he's found a way to make them a lot more useful, a fate that only one was able to escape from. Partially. Meet Phantom Daisy. She's cursed, not dead. And she'll be acting as Luigi's deuteragonist for the adventure. On a quest to stop the king from enslaving a whole new army of self-made ghosts, it's up to the two of them to get things back on track. Unlike Luigi in Luigi's Mansion 3, Daisy isn't independently controlled. She's more of a seamless extension of Luigi's moveset that grants him new abilities, like the power to phase through certain walls. Nonetheless, the two are very much a duo throughout the adventure, and their dynamic will be essential to saving the day. Luigi's Mansion 4 will, of course, release in October. It's been a few years since the last 99 game, and Nintendo will have a new one that they're eager to show off, Balloon Fight 99. Far nicher than the likes of Tetris and Mario, but this NES revival uses the same framework as its predecessors, pitting you against 98 opponents who are able to flood your screen with hazards by staying alive themselves. In spite of the name, Balloon Trip is what's being adapted here, and you'll have to weave your way through a lot to come out on top. Balloon Fight 99 will launch on the same day as the Direct, free to anyone who owns Nintendo Switch Online. To close the second direct of the year, Nintendo's gone for another big one, a game that's been highly anticipated throughout the latter half of the Switch era. After falling asleep under a very old magical tree, Kirby finds himself transported into Dreamland's distant past. Once he wakes up there, it's up to him to fulfill an ancient prophecy that's been waiting for his arrival to unfold, even teaming up with some of the ancestors of familiar faces along the way. And yes, the lore implications are frighteningly vast. This game takes on a very different aesthetic from the mainline series, most comparable to Kirby Clash of all things, going all in on the medieval fantasy vibes. In terms of gameplay, however, this is absolutely Forgotten Land 2. Bigger, grander, and with a whole new slew of returning copy abilities to upgrade, like Mirror, my goat, this game is poised to be one of Kirby's greatest adventures yet. Kirby and the Ancient Quest will be set for spring 2027. After the Fire Emblem Direct and presumably another Pokemon Presents, the second act and first half of Nintendo's 2026 will come to a close. In the aftermath of the Galaxy movie, Nintendo's really going out of their way to ensure that the year is filled to the brim with Mario, even if it has to come in the form of adjacent franchises. But even with the anniversary long past, that doesn't mean they're done with surprises. Which brings us to Act 3, the Switch 1 Swan Song. July will be a big month for both systems, with the release of Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave and Rhythm Heaven Groove uniting fans of controlled chaos. Again, regarding the former, I really need to cross 3 houses off my backlog at some point, but I hope fans enjoy it and I hope Buddy finds his melanin. Groove, on the other hand, has like a 0% chance of not pleasing its audience. Can't see a world where it's not met with a mountain of praise right out the gate. August, which is typically a quieter month for Nintendo, will actually be pretty notable this year. Twilight Princess HD will finally come to Switch, and once it does, Nintendo will put out a promotional video where they highlight that The Legend of Zelda's entire 3D saga is now available on Nintendo Switch 2. Wind Waker HD is dead and buried, sorry. Mario Kart World's Tropical Pack DLC will also release this month, and fans will lament the fact that Yoshi Falls was chosen over substantially more interesting alternatives. Not me though, I'll be too busy playing Kamek. And September, one of the most critically important months on Nintendo's yearly calendar, with a more consistent direct schedule than both February and June. This year will not stray from the norm. Alongside the release of Super Mario Maker 3 and Pikmin 4 plus the Century Cave, September will provide the biggest Nintendo Direct of the year. As soon as the presentation opens, we're met with a massive reveal: Metroid 6. Shortly after the events of Dread, choosing to remain in disconnected solitude after revelations within, Samus is tasked with confronting an entirely new cult of aliens and their potentially cataclysmic agenda. After learning that the species aims to collapse a star out of blind worship and devotion, it's up to her to put an end to their plans in the way she does best. All the while, Samus is forced to maintain control of her own explosive new abilities to avoid total consumption. The game marks the beginning of a new saga for Metroid, but in spite of that, Dread's aftermath can be felt in every corner, always at risk of bubbling over, lending Samus a completely new internal challenge as she takes on one of her most important missions. Metroid Nova will launch in 2027. Next up, an incredible return and one of the Switch 1's final big releases. Even after dropping a game earlier in the year with Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave, Intelligent Systems just couldn't stay away from the red guy. With the series' true self laying dormant for the majority of its existence, with only peaks at its potential in the years since, it's time for the revival of a generation: Pushmo Collection. Combining all 3 Pushmo games on the 3DS into one release, this assemblage of puzzles will reignite fans' passion for Pushmo, sparking what can only be referred to as a Pushmo frenzy across the nation. Mallow for Smash. Pushmo Collection will release on Switch in October. Move over, Luigi and Pokemon, the true holiday game is here. Speaking of Luigi though, his and Daisy's upcoming adventure will serve as the loose thematic basis for Mario Kart World's final DLC pack of 2026, the Ruins Pack. The Boo Cup will provide the following courses: Broken Pier, Luigi's Mansion, Thwomp Ruins, giving us our first 8 original back in action, and Bone Piranha Park, an undead garden track. For our 2 character inclusions, Polterpup and Professor E. Gadd. Now, you might be asking yourself, Protendo, did you conceptualize Mario Kart World's DLC being thematically inspired by Mario Universe releases happening around it solely so that you'd have a viable excuse to once again predict Elvin Gadd as a playable character? Yes, November. Mario Kart DLC isn't the only big announcement for casual audiences though. Nintendo has yet another surprise up their sleeves, a sequel to one of the Switch 1's best-selling games. It's not what you might think. Nintendo Switch Sports 2. Or Nintendo Switch 2 Sports, I don't know. Following in the footsteps of its predecessor, Sportsmates Aplenty, the game takes place on the Spoko Coast, a stretch of beach by the water. Alongside the 8 returning sports from the original, Nintendo Switch Sports 2 will provide 7 new ones for a grand total of 15 events. Said sports are baseball, surfing, frisbee, archery, gymnastics, wakeboarding, and triathlon. In spite of the game not seeming exceedingly layered, the first game's success will be very apparent just by looking at it, and 2 will definitely seem like an evolution of what came before, just maybe not super before. Nintendo Switch Sports 2 will be set for February 2027. Alright, one more thing, the final direct closer of the year. And yeah, it's the one. After Bowser mysteriously disappears without a trace, leaving the kingdom in an uncharacteristic state of prolonged peace, Mario journeys to his castle only to find a magical vortex at its center. Once he jumps through, he finds himself in a world very similar to his own, with one key difference. Everything is Bowserfied. The Koopa King has taken it upon himself to turn this parallel land into his own personal fantasy, fully realizing all the dreams that he would never be able to accomplish back in his own Mushroom Kingdom. Not a single corner of the world is untouched by his influence. But the scariest part is, everyone loves it. Bowser is showered with adoration not only from his lackeys, but from every person in this dimension, and Mario is seen as the enemy of this benevolence. As such, usual Mushroom Kingdom allies are turned into adversaries, and it's up to Mario to make his way across this vast interconnected world, using various king-inspired abilities on his journey, to uncover the dark underbelly of Bowser's paradise. Super Mario Utopia, the long-awaited new entry in the 3D Mario series, will launch in 2027. So ends the final Nintendo Direct of the year, and the third act. With most of 2026 behind us and a beautiful looking 2027 painted ahead, it's time for the final stretch. Act 4. Nothing beats a Switch 2 holiday. October will play out as expected, with the release of Pushmo Collection and Luigi's Mansion 4, the latter of which will be massively successful. But one of the final surprises of the year will happen in this month. After all, it is still Zelda's 40th anniversary. Don't get too excited, it's the movie teaser. As many have been predicting, the Legend of Zelda movie won't be a direct adaptation of any one game. Instead, it'll sorta just be an amalgamation of some of the franchise's most notable traits. Link, Zelda, Ganondorf, Triforce, Master Sword, yada yada yada, maybe a beetle if you're lucky. I think the movie will end up looking pretty okay, I don't know, my expectations aren't crazy high. Regardless, big deal, big event, Miyamoto please put a Pikmin short in front of the movie. November will see the release of both Pokemon Gen 10 and Mario Kart World's Ruins Pack, which I imagine will spark some pretty intense pricing discourse depending on whether the former feels bold enough to repoke the $80 bear. Please don't touch the bear. Whatever price point they do sell it at, it's Pokemon. It's gonna move crazy units until the sun goes out, and the hype surrounding the highly anticipated, highly celebrated 10th generation will launch it to even greater heights. Having Mario Maker, Luigi's Mansion, and Pokemon back to back to back will lead to an incredibly successful holiday for Nintendo. Which brings us to December. Nothing. Some calm before the incoming 2027 storm. Obviously, Pushmo's getting Game Awards buzz, but otherwise a very relaxed end to a very eventful year. It's always sort of hard for me to place whether or not I'm coming at these from a reasonable angle until I look back on them in retrospect. Obviously, I'd like to be right about everything, but Nintendo moves in mysterious ways. I mean, who expected them to prioritize Donkey Kong over Mario, or Kirby Air Ride over Smash? Or maybe they didn't, I don't know, I don't have the energy to Smash speculate right now. Whatever this year has in store for us, I just hope it's exciting to see and play. That's sorta all you can wish for. But as always, I'd love to hear what you think. Are my predictions on point, or am I way off the mark? And what are you expecting to see from Nintendo's 2026? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you all later.